No, I don't have the legs for it.
Okay, so that's put to rest. But she also she
Thank you for
also
the call. Thank you for the question, though.
right. But she wants to know, and I know you've had one. Very few people like to discuss them, but what's your most frightening investigation or paranormal experience?
Well, I've had several that have really surprised me. Um, Frightened, I don't think I've. Well, I should say when I first started out and not really knew what I was getting into. Yeah, I got frightened. One thing. Let me see here. My mind's going 1,000 miles an hour because now I want to answer it. And my mind's like, pick this one. No, pick this one. No, pick this one. And now all my voices are like yelling at each other. Uh, okay. I had this. Well, I'll tell you what. One of my first cases. I was like 18 years old. I don't know if I told you this or not. I can't remember. And I had just gotten out of high school. I was getting ready to go into college, and I had always wanted to observe phenomena. And I found out from some friends that this lady was having like poltergeist activity in her home. Now, I'm 18. I don't know what I know now. I don't know what I was going to do other than introduce myself and see if I could try to observe some things. So that's what I did. I found out where she was, and I went up to the door and I said, hi, my name is Pete Haviland. This is going to sound like the weirdest thing that you've ever heard, but I've heard that you were having some issues in your home. I said, I'm not here to judge you. I just want to see if I can observe. Would you be interested in that? And of course it wasn't in that wording
Right.
then. It's in the wording now. But she was very friendly. It was an older lady, and she said, "Sure, come on in." She said, "It happens, almost every day, and it happens at all different times of the day." And I said, "Okay, great." So we sat down and we were talking, and she was kind of telling me some of the things that would happen, and it was mostly like rappings and tappings. It was sounding like somebody was dragging a box across a floor, and she was the only one who lived there. I think she had a couple of cats. I can't remember too clearly on that. So I went over there at least once or twice a week, and we became pretty good friends. And so I would go over there, and she'd have a tuna fish sandwich for me.
Well,
We'd have
that's
lunch.
good.
Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, we would just sit and chat, and just what happened during the day, and she would tell me, "Oh yeah, last night, I was watching TV, and I heard somebody walking around upstairs, and I had gone upstairs, and nothing was there." And I was like, "Oh wow, I wish I was there." And she goes, "Well, I can't ask you to spend the night because people will talk." I do remember that. But she says you're welcome over here anytime. I said that's great. So we continued that, and I had gone over there one day, and I had found out that she was going to be moving to her daughter's because she was getting a little older. She was having some problems taking care of herself, so her daughter was going to take her in, and she was going to sell her house. And she was telling me how upset she was, and she really didn't want to move, and she'd been living there for many years. And so we sat and we talked, and when she was talking about how upset she was and stuff, I started hearing boxes moving around upstairs. And she looked at me. She goes, "That's what I hear sometimes, and I'm just
Really?
now hearing it." So I was younger then, and I was a lot lighter then. So I ran up the stairs. Now I would just probably just I wouldn't run. But so I go up the stairs and turn into what she called the library, which it was a library. It had a whole bunch of um, really old books and stuff on the floor, and she was starting to take the stuff down, and turned the corner, and I got hit in the head with a book.
Oh my.
Didn't see anybody there, just saw the book fly, hit me square in the head. Hurt like hell. It was it was a hardback, and when I picked it up and I looked at it, it was a first edition of Gone with the Wind, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, even back then, I'm thinking, we just talked about her moving, and I'm seeing Gone with the Wind.
Right.
That's I was like, wow. Now is now again, not knowing what to do. I did have my experience, and I told her what had happened, and she just laughed at me. She's the one that brought it up, about her leaving and the book was being Gone with the Wind and how funny
Right.
that was. And I'm over there rubbing my forehead and asking for aspirin. Uh, but it was, that was one of the first times that I kind of thought, not along, like I said, not along what I know now as far as how deep-seated emotions and blah blah blah, just that easily of how upset she was, and I got hit with something. Now I couldn't put two and two together, but it just seemed like a really weird thing. And after she moved, after she moved and stuff, we kept in contact, and she had passed away. Not not longer than maybe a couple months. I got a letter from her sister, her daughter, excuse me, and that she had passed. But I would say, as far as, yeah, that kind of scared the hell out of me. I wasn't expecting that. I've also seen in houses in Galveston the 1900 storm survivors. I've worked a couple of those houses as residentials, and I've turned corners and seen children like presenting themselves as like they'd been dead a while, like just real gray and sunken in and just horrible. And that scares me. Anytime I deal with children with stuff like that, that really bothers
Well,
me.
I
It
could see
bothers me
that.
more. Yeah, and it bothers me not in a scary sense now, but when the first time it hits, you get set aback. I mean, you're there because people are experiencing something, so you're kind of experiencing, you kind of knowing something's going to happen. You don't know when, so you're more surprised at that point. But you know, I should say what really scares me most is what people do to people. That's the thing that scares me the
Truth.
most.
Absolute truth.
Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that was a great answer. Because I don't see, as a rule, when I do see, it's usually in shadow form.
Mhm.
Because I really don't want to see people in their death state. That's not something that I've ever sought out. And
Well, what I've come across in the years is that if you do see something, it's usually how they want to present themselves to try to get you to understand what has happened to them. I've seen people present themselves as the best time in their life, meaning that that they're happy. They feel great. I've seen them present themselves in their murdered state, meaning that it's usually an unsolved murder, and wanted to let you know what happened to them. That's some of the things I've noticed over the years is that the presentation is more information than it is trying to show you something spooky.
well, I I guess I've just been in environments twice where there was a spirit there who was trying to intimidate the other spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and they were they were causing them to feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And both times when I got that and brought it up in conversation, I had personal experiences by the entity that was, for lack of a better word, acting out.
Mm-hmm.
Because both times the men around me got up and left. Okay. So, I mean, and I didn't think what they did was very frightening, but I I don't experience actually seeing. And both times that well, it's been more than two, but the two that were kind of bizarre shadow interactions were trying to make me leave. So they were like melting kind of woo things, and I don't do woo very much. So yeah, I'm
I
not a
was
big
just,
woo woo person.
yeah, I'm not either. I'm not either. The closest I've ever come to being with anything that I would consider evil. I don't know if I remember telling you this either. Um, a lady contacted us that she wanted us to come out and bless her home. Um, she was she was telling me that she was experiencing um, sounds, smells, things like that. And at that time, I was working with a priest, and we went out there, and Father was preparing himself to for the ritual of the Eucharist. He was calling in the litany of the saints and things like that to get ready to bless the home. And as he's doing that and putting his vestments on, he as he was doing that, I was kind of monitoring the area with a thermal imaging gun, the temperature gun, not the thermal imager,
Right.
but the thermal temperature. So as I'm kind of poking around with that, it's getting to be about 90 degrees in the house, and the thermometer in the home is reading 70, and I'm seeing Father pulling on his robes and being uncomfortable. I see him starting to sweat. I'm starting to sweat as he continues, and then as we start walking the house, and as he's going through the house blessing, and he's blessing the home with holy water. I mean, it just becomes just unbearable in the home, and we get up to this one door that the lady had said that the door was closed, and she said, you can go. You have my permission to go in there, Father. And Father tried to open the door, and it wouldn't open. It was like it was locked, or something was holding the door. And and after he sprinkled some holy water on it, door opened, and went in there, and there was an altar for a Santeria altar, and
Really?
interviewing her after everything was said and done, she was using the altar to call in better, luck for her, because she was out of work, and on one side, and on the other side, she is cursing her husband, because her husband was very abusive to her. And Father had told her that she needed to get the altar out of the home, and and suggested to her to start going to church and things like that. And once that had happened, the temperature went back down to 70 degrees in the home. And after that, all kinds of weird stuff was happening to Father and myself in our private lives. And the only thing we can think of is that, we were getting back some of what we, that we had moved on.
Right.
And, and that's the closest I've ever been to something evil, or potentially evil. Because I've worked many cases after that, and
Right.
90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's either misidentification, or it might be RSPK due to stress issues, or
Right.
issues that that hadn't been taken care of by counseling, traumatic events and things like that, structural, the usual suspects. But I have yet to come across anything like that again.
Well,
Now I do assessments for Father Jack Ashcraft, and when he gets cases that come in, he asks me to interview them, or if they're in my area, to take a look at them. And I have yet to hand the case back over to Father Ashcraft, with it being something that preternatural, other than it's usually just something explainable.
Well, that's fantastic, but I'm going to have to interrupt you here, and I apologize because
It's
this
okay.
is fascinating.